The Rangers lose a tough one to the Carolina Hurricanes. They lose 3-2. And this was the first game for me in a while where I actually really did care about the result of the game. Recently it was more about playing well, but the Rangers are on a 4-game winning streak. You know, a couple of things. And the off chance that somehow the Rangers were to catch Carolina, that would have taken them winning both of these two games, and ideally both in regulation. At worst, you win one in regulation, you win one maybe in overtime. But that was kind of a small part of it. The other thing was, and maybe this reevaluates how I think, but it really doesn't, is also the hope that, the more Carolina loses, the more the Devils win. You get that Rangers-Carolina matchup that I'm actually, surprisingly wanting. But I've always said all along, it's a tough, look, Carolina, as we saw tonight, is a really hardworking team. I just think come playoff time, when everyone is working hard, and don't get me wrong, Carolina, their style of play, it still works. Come playoff, it's not as if it's completely gone, but we saw last year in a 7-game series where the Rangers were able to find a way. Doesn't mean it would happen again, but this much is true. The Rangers, Carolina's got more speed than them, and certainly we know the Devils have more speed than the Rangers. So the lack of speed is an issue for the Rangers. It definitely is. They've been able to overcome it, but I definitely think that could hurt them in the, at the end of this. But yeah, this was a frustrating loss. And it was a game that the Rangers played a really good first period. Really good first period. What let them down, their power play let them down. And I just think that those units, it's just kind of ridiculous. Like, just for example, to not have Zibanejad on to start the power play. Now, the last power play the Rangers had, they went with sort of, I guess, their locked and loaded, totally number one unit, which had Zibanejad, Panarin, Kreider, Kane, and Fox. Now, I'm not surprised by that. Am I a little upset that they seem to cater to Patrick Kane? I am a little bit. For me, I think I'd prefer Tarasenko over Kane. That's just me. I still have not really been super impressed by Kane, but I understand that the points are there, and it's not as if he's been a train wreck by any means. But I just that's a small thing for now. But again, with Kane, I've been skeptical, as exciting as it is to see him, as a Ranger. But that's not a big part of tonight. Although the first two lines didn't really get enough going. But here's what sucks about this game, and we'll go at it in more detail. But the Rangers, look, Shesterkin was really good. Shesterkin, you look at it, and he was the reason why the Rangers were in a position to win this game. And the Rangers had a shutout streak that basically, I didn't see the final number. I think it was probably just shy of 3 games. So they got the 2 shutouts in back-to-back games against Pittsburgh and Nashville. And in this game, Carolina didn't score until almost halfway through the third. And if you go back to that other Pittsburgh game where Pittsburgh did score the most recent goal, where it was a Jake Gensel goal in the third period, if I remember correctly, that was around the halfway point of the third, give or take. It felt that way, at least. And so, so you were basically looking at 3 games of not allowing a goal. It was too good to be true. It was going to end. But here's the thing that really stings is, all right, Carolina ties it up at 1. Then the Rangers, 30 seconds later, score to make it 2-1. Right? So it's all right, great, perfect. That should be demoralizing to Carolina. Here it is, Carolina finally scores, and the Rangers immediately respond. And then remember, so it was actually 31 seconds where the Rangers took the lead after Carolina tied it. 18 seconds later, Carolina ties it again. And so that was bad. That is completely unacceptable. And eventually Carolina would win it in regulation. So, this result, and again, I was never of the belief that this would have happened, where the Rangers could somehow catapult all the way to the top of the division. That was never going to happen. And this result, even with the Ranger regulation win against Carolina Thursday, that is done. That is done. Could they catch the Devils? I suppose. But, things could have gotten a little bit interesting if the Rangers had somehow won these 2 games. That doesn't happen. And this is, and for Carolina, this probably felt pretty good. Because, again, think about it. They had lost 4 straight to the Rangers dating back to the playoffs last year. 4 straight, and 5 out of the last. They lost 4 straight and 6 out of their last 7. So you know that was that this. I got to think this was meaningful. And now Rangers go back to Carolina Thursday. I don't know what to expect in that game, but for me, the juice of the juice is taken away just a little bit from the game Thursday. So we'll just see, what happens for that. I hope the Rangers win again because the hope for me is that the Devils can pass Carolina. The Svechnikov injury is what has really made me believe that that's the right thing. But I acknowledge that it is not a no-brainer. It is not a no-brainer. And if you were to have told me before the season started that I'd rather play Carolina than the Devils, I would have said, are you out of your mind? So I acknowledge all of that. And I know I've made a big deal about it. I think it's important. But then again, it at the end of the day, these teams are all pretty evenly matched. Obviously, there's different skill sets to the Devils, Carolina, and the Rangers, but I think that at the end of the day, any of those combinations, those series are probably going. There's a good chance they're going 6 or 7 in any matchup between those three teams. One would think. So in this one, Ryan Lindgren returns. So Ryan Lindgren, he missed 11 straight games. He was back. He would leave the game briefly late in the second period, but would return. And for Lindgren, he didn't seem like his normal. To me, he didn't seem like his normal self. There were some good moments. There really were, but also some not so good moments. And he was definitely in the center of things that were going on in this game. Good to have him back, but definitely not great to see him like kind of. It doesn't. The thing for me is it doesn't seem like he's 100% there, and so for me it's like, then like let's sit him more. There is no rush to bring him back. There is no rush. The Rangers, there's, 11 games, there's, 11 games left in the season now? Right, 11 games left. He missed 11 games. Like, it's all right if he misses more time. So that was the thing that kind of sucked was it seemed like he was wincing and it seemed like it was just a re-aggravation of the injury he has. And it didn't seem like it was anything new. The good thing is that he came right back. He finished the game. It was fine, but it is something to monitor. And with Lindgren, we know that like he does play through injury, but not great. Happy that he's back again. I think that he'll obviously get better over time, but Lindgren was back in. Ben Harper was the healthy scratch. So in the first period, I thought the Rangers played a really good first, and I'll tell you where I think this game kind of turned. But in the first, I thought the Rangers played a really nice period, and they end up and they're rewarded for it as at the 17-minute mark, the fourth line scores. It's Tyler Mott scoring his third goal with the Rangers this season, his sixth goal overall from Goodrow and Vesey. So it's nice to see that fourth line contribute. Again, it is one of the best fourth lines that we've seen from the Rangers in a long time. It's just a solid fourth line. And, look, they were on for a goal against. I believe the first Carolina goal, let's see, the plus minuses. Yes, because they're all three are even. So that has happened as well. They have been on for goals against. And so that's not ideal. But Mott scores and the Rangers take a 1-0 lead. He scores against Freddie Anderson. And the Rangers have this 1-0 lead going into the second. In the second, at 6:27, and for me, Tyler Mott was really one of the best players on the ice tonight. I thought he was just all over the ice, and he drew 2 penalties for the Rangers. And at 6:27, Jordan Martinook high sticks Mott, but the Rangers power play does not score, and it didn't look good at all. Did not look good at all. Got nothing going. And again, I feel like the 1A unit at that point is that Panarin, Kane, Trocheck, Lafreniere unit. And I just don't think that's necessarily fair or right. Honestly, if it were me, I think that other unit would be my 1A. I'd be fine splitting them evenly. But I think what's going to happen is that it's going to be more like what we saw in that last power play, which I'll reiterate once we get there. But I thought that the Rangers, that was bad. That was a bad power play, and Carolina got going from there. Carolina, to me, dominated the rest of the second period. Absolutely. The puck was in the Rangers zone the whole time. And the Rangers defensively, they were trying the stretch pass, and it just wasn't working. The Rangers were not adjusting; they were just trying the same things, and Carolina was just snuffing it out each time. Carolina's a team. If you play smart against them with the Rangers' skill, you can beat Carolina. But if you're gonna, play stupid and just do the same shit, Carolina, they will take advantage of mistakes. That's what Carolina does. They feast on mistakes, and the Rangers made some mistakes that cost them. So at 16:50, Ryan Lindgren is called for holding. He holds Jesper Fast, but Lindgren's hurt, and so he leaves the game briefly. And Tarasenko serves the penalty. The Rangers penalty kill, though, does a good job, and they kill that penalty. It was the one penalty they took on the night. And then as that power play is expiring, Carolina takes a penalty. Kotkaniemi hooks Mott. So again, Tyler Mott getting involved. It was a nice chance. It was like a kind of a mini, I wouldn't call it a 2-on-1, but an opportunity with Trocheck, and Mott is taken down. But the power play doesn't score. And, in part it was broken up by the period. And that's always, to me, that's always makes the power play a lot tougher when that happens. But, again, didn't get anything going. So we go to the third, and the Rangers are up 1-0. And in the third, Rangers kind of reeled it in a little bit, but I still felt like the play was in the Rangers zone for the most part. And eventually they finally score. And it is a goal by Jalen Chatfield, the sixth goal of the season from Stepan. So the former Ranger gets an assist. And then Drury, Jack Drury, the nephew of Chris Drury, he also gets an assist there as well. So at 9:49, the shutout streak snaps. The lead is gone, and Chatfield had a lot of room. If there's one goal that Igor would like to have back, it'd be this one. You can't blame him for the other two. He just can't. But this one, sure, you can, but Igor was just really, really good tonight. Like, excellent. He deserved a lot better. And the defenseman, Chatfield, comes in and scored. He had some room. The fourth line was on. He had way too much space. Way too much space. But the Rangers take the lead back. And I should mention, so this is important. Before that Chatfield goal, Jesper Fast is called trips Shesterkin. Their skates got tangled. Fast is called for tripping, and the power play doesn't come through. And this is where they tried to kind of stack who they felt was their top players in one unit, and it did not work. And then boom, Carolina ties it up. So it was bad enough in the second where they lost momentum, but the Carolina didn't score. Here, Carolina does score. However, the Rangers take the lead back. 31 seconds later, it's Kakko scoring his 13th goal of the season from Lindgren and Fox. So, give Lindgren an assist in his first game back, and he was involved in that play. But Kakko scores a big goal for Kakko, who, hasn't really done a whole lot in terms of offensive production lately. That's a huge goal for him. And what should have been, all right, here we go. Great response. Let's close this out. Let's close this out. That was huge. But 18 seconds later, after Carolina had just tied it up less than a minute before this upcoming goal, Stefan Nason scores his 11th goal of the season from the former Ranger Fast, and then Jordan Staal gets the other assist. And this was a play where Keandre Miller was just completely out of position. I mean, that's the guy who you got to blame here. Nason was left wide alone. Zibanejad was with Staal. And for some reason, Keandre Miller has had these brain farts. And look, deserved praise for, the 4 points against Nashville. And, it was a record for Ranger defensemen in the history of the organization. But Keandre Miller, too often we see these really, really bad mental mistakes. Look, just recently he had that against Pittsburgh when Pittsburgh, it was a goal that was set up by Crosby. So I think was it Raquel? I can't remember who Crosby set up, but Miller absolutely Crosby read it and goal. And so Keandre Miller, too often lately, there's just big fuck-ups. And that's just unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. And again, apologies if he isn't the one to blame there, but based on what it looked like, it's on Miller. As much as, I'm an anti-Trouba guy, and as much as I'd love to blame him, that wasn't Trouba's fault. That simply was not Trouba's fault. That is all on Keandre Miller. And that just can't happen. That's completely unacceptable. And so it's 2-2. And then Carolina eventually takes the lead. Their first lead of the night. It's a goal by Teuvo Teravainen, his 11th goal of the season from Burns and Kotkaniemi at 17:27. Let's talk about this. First, I believe this was a play where Panarin just shoots it from center ice right on Anderson. The better move is just, put that deep in the corner. So that kind of sets up a situation immediately where Anderson gets it right back down. And the key thing is that Lindgren is unable to get the puck out. But in the process, Lindgren was slew-footed. By who, I can't say. I should know that, but Lindgren was taken down and probably illegally. With that being said, I feel like the Rangers were, I don't know if they were getting away. I felt like the officiating was kind of somewhat advantage Rangers when you consider the fact that at that point the Rangers had a 3-1 power play advantage. It shouldn't change what is done. It shouldn't change what is called. But Lindgren, there probably should have been something there. There wasn't, and so everything breaks down. And you kind of knew something bad was going to happen. And Burns finds a wide open Teravainen. And Fox, I wish that Fox could have just kept his stick on the ice. Again, they were kind of in an odd man situation with Lindgren kind of down. And Teravainen's wide open and scores. And then after that, the last 2 minutes and 30 seconds, the Rangers, it was a microcosm of the game. They couldn't get shit going until the very end. The very end, there were some chances, but nothing great. I mean, that should have been a situation where the Rangers were in their zone for a minute and a half, and they just weren't. Carolina, it was a bit of a defensive clinic, but I feel like the Rangers were to blame to allow that to happen. So Carolina wins this game 3-2. Yeah, this one, it just sucks because, and I understand the excitement. I understand, beating Pittsburgh 6-0 and beating Nashville 7-0. I get all that, but I mean, this was. And the Rangers had this coming. Look, Carolina was due to beat the Rangers. It happened. And in reality, it really doesn't change the scope of what we've known all along. And what we've known all along is that the most likely outcome was that it's going to be Rangers-Devils with the Devils having home ice advantage. That's really what this has been gearing up for. It's not definite. The Devils and Hurricanes, it's still a race. But, this would have, for me, killed two birds with one stone. This potential Ranger win over Carolina could have made things interesting for the Rangers to potentially, move up there in the standings, as unlikely as it felt at one point. And again, it would have also moved Carolina down in the standings. And by beating Carolina, let's say it happened, it would have just furthered the idea that, all right, like this is the team that we kind of want to play. Didn't happen. Not the end of the world. But this was a bad blown lead for the Rangers, especially after the Kakko goal. That to me is what makes it unacceptable. So the Rangers lose this one at MSG. They will now head to Carolina. That'll be interesting to see how that one goes down in this home and home. But, again, Carolina's probably feeling pretty good. We'll see how the Rangers respond. And the Rangers lose this one 3-2.